All right, I'd like to call to order the September 17, 2025 meeting of the Lower Southern Township Board of Supervisors and ask everyone join me. Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's do our public comment, which anyone wishing to be recognized. Seeing that, take a motion to approve the work session meeting minutes of June 18, 2025, July 1, 2025, August 5, 2025, and September 2, 2025. To the extent there are no.
I make a motion to approve the subject to any feedback.
I have one amendment to the September 2nd minutes. I'd like to be marked.
Because we must.
Good one.
Mine are certificate, but I did have a few grammatical errors I can show you if that's okay there. And one, I think there's one in the third in June 18th, third paragraph. Team met last week, review preliminary. This to review preliminary. It's out in the third paragraph. And then a few comments on a couple of the other side. I should give it to you afterwards.
I will amend my motion to accept all changes as submitted.
Second. Move to second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those say nay, motion carries. Public Works Director, Mr. Jones.
Good morning. Update on some project, Burgess Mill Road Bridge. HEK is working on the bridge deck at this point. Also working on layout of the trail and the scenic lookout. The neighboring property owner has some concerns with the proximity of the trail and the lookout to his property. It's about 100 feet away from his fence line. He's just concerned that his privacy is going to disappear. So we're in discussions with him to see if there's an opportunity to try and resolve it, or I told him I didn't think there was a whole lot we could, he wants it relocated. I said, well, I don't think that's an option at this point. So we're discussing the situation.
So curious, what kind of is it? Look out that's kind of fishing to go. Just kind of.
It's just a scenic lookout. It's up higher on the hill so that you can, look down on the park and the creek. It's not much of a view, honestly, because of the tree line along the creek, and there's also a tree line that kind of bisects the park property. So I don't know how much it's going to get used, but his concern is that we are now inviting people closer to his property.
Does it have one of those telescopes you put quarters in?
No. So we're working with him on his concerns. We've discussed previously that HEK has kind of taken over the park with all their material storage and equipment storage and vehicle parking and everything. And we met out there last week to discuss the trail location, and I brought up some issues that I would like to see resolved as kind of compensation for the use of the park. Some of it was well received, others not so much. The biggest concern that I have is the rock outcropping that's on the Haldeman Road side. With the alignment of the bridge and with it widened to 2 lanes and primarily on the upstream side, it seems as if that southbound traffic is being directed into the rock outcropping and into that wall. There were some discussions about whether the township had input in this design during the design phase, and I responded in not so nice manner that no, we did not have any option to comment on the design, the alignment, or anything actually. So HEK's agreed to put pavement markings for the full length, so they're extend on either side of the bridge, which is an easy one. We were concerned about the exit coming out of the park and the elevation of the driveway to be able to see over the guide rail. we have a little bit of a concern at Camp Wawa with that, and I don't want to end up with the same situation there. At Bergie Mill as we have there, so they're amenable to looking at that and making sure that that's acceptable. And H&K is primarily pushing the rock issue off on the county because of the design, and it's outside of the limits of disturbance. Claim it's outside their permit. So waiting for a response from Montgomery County at this point. So we'll see where this goes.
That's unfortunate, is that working with the township parks would reflect very well on this one too. It's fortunate message.
Yeah, unfortunately, the county doesn't always necessarily see the cooperative spirit in these projects.
So give me a big arrow on the rocks.
Yeah.
I do, I know we all do, I'm sure we all appreciate, but I do appreciate, I know you always take pictures and hold people up to that, that's something that you've done in previous, projects, so if anybody is listening, they're really trying to hold them up to that, to make sure they get the park cleaned up. Well,
Yep, we absolutely will.
thank you.
Moving on, Public Works and Community Center projects, we met with the design team on the potential options for the location of Public Works. So they are working on a concept plan. We hope to have that next week. And at this point, the community center project is kind of on the back burner just until we kind of fully vet all the other options that are available for us, to us for that facility and the uses of that facility. The Main Street sidewalk work continues. Curbing's being poured, the driveways are being restored. You're still waiting for utility adjustments in front of the Weaver Reckner property. So that seems to be the biggest holdup in construction at this point, but they're working on either side of it, try to get all those,
Who's responsible for doing this? The adjustment, is it Marino or is it?
utility companies.
Okay,
That's because it's their service.
so it's the services that came down the line that is gonna drop them below.
Yeah, the issue was they were never installed deep enough because there was the grading plans and all the utility plans didn't account for future sidewalk. So that's kind of, they put them in directly in the way for the sidewalk. Not thinking that sidewalk was ever gonna happen. So, but yeah, it's the individual utility company.
Sewer thing has been taken care of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now what we do is below those.
There's probably a room between the sewer and sidewalk, right? There's.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll never have to.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Jacob Rife, Streamback Restoration Project. This is phase 2 of our project with the Perkiomen Watershed Conservancy. Have a pre-construction meeting this morning with the Conservation District and hope to start in the next couple of weeks.
Where are they taking access to go for that?
Off of Store Road.
Okay,
There's 2 access points, actually, one off the quarry. But the quarry roadside is basically just gonna be invasive removals and things of that nature and some plantings. But the actual construction of the kind of the overflow basin and the reconnection with the stream is going to be on that little flat meadow portion that's comes off of Store Road and then down the hill. And then there's work that's gonna happen going up the hill between the 2 fields where we've got that drainage ravine. So there's gonna be some that's gonna be addressed as well. So. PennDOT Winter Services Agreement. After our discussion last time, I emailed PennDOT with our concerns and what kind of what we were looking for, and I have not gotten a response back as of yet, so I will follow up with them.
Still on the 5-year.
I'm sorry,
They still want the 5-year.
that's their standard, the minimum, the base term of the contract or the agreement is 5 years with 5 one-year extensions. So a total of 10 years and at the 2% annual increase. And I talked to a number of my counterparts and everybody but one signed off on it. So it was, which surprised me.
that's very surprising. I
Yeah.
heard a lot of them weren't signed.
Okay, the ones that I deal with through the Public Works Association. Excuse me, have all just, like I said, all but one have agreed to the terms.
Our current agreement, this expired, or like this winter, are we covered by an agreement or
No.
not yet? So that's, they need to get something signed.
Yeah, and PennDOT honestly just doesn't have the resources if there's a mass exodus on these winter maintenance agreements. So I think we're in a pretty good position.
Obviously, we want to serve our community and make sure it's safe, but that
Absolutely.
does allow us to.
Yeah.
The other townships have wide roads. Is that why they're quicker to sign?
It's, I mean, it varies, you know, but I think, yeah, everybody has some major routes that run through their municipalities. But yeah, not sure what the incentive was for them to just to go ahead and agree to the terms that PennDOT offered.
I appreciate your effort. I'm uncomfortable with it. It's signed.
Castle Road Bridge, I did receive a call from a resident about some concerns that the county was moving forward. He claimed that they were looking for right of way from his property. And it's temporary construction easement that they were looking for. So they touched base with the county, and they are working through the acquisition of right of way from the Ingalls property, which is where the turnaround is going to be. And then the temporary construction easement from Mr. Marsh on the opposite side. So my guess is,
Yeah, you said Cascade.
did I say, I'm sorry, Roberts Road. My apologies. I was thinking Castle, but anyway, so we would expect, at least I would expect probably a spring of next year construction. Morris Road and Upper Mainland Road, that intersection has become a little problematic with accidents. We're working to try and resolve that. Apparently, the issue seems to be the Upper Mainland Road traffic does not like stop signs. And either stops and then proceeds without the intersection being safe, or doesn't stop at all. So we're not 100% sure. We're getting some conflicting reports on exactly what's happening there.
Somebody goes through that on a fairly frequent basis because of that detour. I think people come around the tree and they do a rolling stop, just keep going. They slow down and come around that tree that sort of juts out, that they're not, and the sight distance to the right is not great. I mean, cars can come along pretty fast from that standpoint.
And there's a double utility pole there,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
the one utility pole, and I reached out to Verizon to try to get that utility pole. Put that on their list to expedite.
That's the other direction, Mike.
Yeah, that's coming from Main Street, coming from Quarry Road, like. The other approach of up.
Okay, now, how many times I've driven, there is always another car from the other direction, right where at the tree.
Is there a visibility issue, or you think people?
So I think they come around and then they just, when you're pulling up here, you can see the left real well. But you can see as you're pulling up this way, there's not, you can't see anything if you're, it's an offset and it's really a obscure view until you're really up to the corner.
Yeah,
Well-
I think people just don't realize it's not full of stop.
Yeah.
To pull it out, even
And the offset.
That just boggles my mind that there's, an expectation that people are gonna stop when there's no indication that there's stop signs on the Morris Road approach.
I also think there's other people who are expecting, because of the detour,
Yes.
that they're just making the right ones, like if they're coming on Morris towards Shore, they're making a right one to Upper Mainland because they follow the detour, they're not going. So just, or they're making a left, it's a bit of a mess right there.
We had a short meeting with Stephanie yesterday, and Corey had a video from private dash cam that showed south on Upper Mainland. Stopped, full stop, but there was cars coming from both directions, and Morrison it right out between the two of them.
Okay, maybe.
And did not make it. Didn't occur to me that we had something similar many years ago, Yoder and Maple.
Yes.
And they said, PennDOT went out and studied it, and there was some optical issue that people they could not see the intersection as they approached it. They tried the double extra wide signs, striping, stop, and, 3 stop bars before they eventually just said, just make it 4-way. And we discussed with Stephanie all the criteria that's required to do that. So we're doing some crash studies now.
This issue, I think, goes away as soon as heat.
The volume's definitely gonna get reduced, and you would think that the crash, the crash frequency would get reduced as well.
Yeah, it just wasn't, you just didn't have anybody using this to that level of, through traffic. and
Yeah.
speed. I think it's a speed issue because they're trying to make up.
I'm gonna pull the data for the last 3 years of crashes, so that'll bring us prior to the
Yeah,
construction
sure,
and
we'll get
then
forward,
after,
yeah.
to see where we're at.
But in the interim, we've installed a supplementary stop signs on the left side on each approach. We've put cross traffic does not stop below the stop signs. We're putting flashing lights on top of the stop signs and on top of the stop aheads. We're painting stop bars there. We're gonna put intersection warning signs on Morris Road to warn, the Morris Road traffic of entering vehicles. Not sure, we talked about the possibility of doing rumble strips, but people are aware of the intersection. They're aware because on each approach, you have to make a slight
You
bend
do.
to get there. So if they were just not paying attention or distracted, they would go straight and end up in the fields or off the road. So they're making the bend around that tree and around that slight bend as you're coming southbound. For whatever reason, they're just not stopping or not proceeding with caution once they get to the stop controlled intersection.
Appreciate the signage. Unfortunately, you're right, it seems like the only way people stop, if we put a police car there, can't do that as well. But, no, I'm curious to see results of this one.
When will this study?
This week.
Start? So it seems to me that the simplest thing to do is to make a forward stop while in place. And to the extent that on duty freeze, remove. So that, we're gonna make it as safe as it can be. That seems to be some. I think there's been proposals in the past to that speeding on there an issue, so that alleviates the two issues, though you're not supposed to put in stop signs to slow speed. It will, in fact, slow things down.
Speed on Morris Road, yeah.
And I mean, if signage isn't helping, it's good move there.
Well, what often happens for these types of roadways, you got a very low volume roadway under normal conditions. Now you introduce the condition elsewhere, it's increased the traffic volumes. So statistically, if it was somewhat of a difficult intersection with low volume, doesn't rise itself to the level that it has now, where increased volume statistically incidents or accidents. So that's what I was curious about that study. My suspicion is that since the deep got in place, incidents and accidents have increased, and this is a way to eliminate or just alleviate the issue that's out there.
That makes sense because the intersection that most people were going through was 4A Morris, which is a four-way intersection. For that line, and a four-way, that's not a four-way stop line intersection, yeah.
For that volume, it's
Yeah.
gonna be
Funnel elsewhere, yeah.
anyway. We'll
Just wanted you to be aware. Department activities, Roth Park, we paved the parking lot and striped it. We're gonna be installing parking bumpers and, picnic tables, new picnic tables for the concrete pads have arrived, so we're gonna be putting those together and installing those along with some benches. Installed a new water fountain / bottle filler / dog bowl station at the Park Avenue Fields. This was part of the Schuylkill Highlands grant that we received. We've been having an ongoing issue with intermittent problems at the traffic signal at 113 in Salfordville, Morris and Cross Road approach. For whatever reason, apparently does not get. Vehicles aren't being detected for whatever reason. Not sure exactly why. We've had a difficult time pinpointing it. Originally, we thought it was sun glare, some information indicating to the contrary. But over the weekend, we had a crash that took out one of the pedestal poles. I had been talking with Higgins about raising the camera and angling it down to try to avoid the sun glare issue or minimize any sun glare issue. this crash gave us an opportunity to do that. So yesterday Higgins installed a 20-foot pole instead of a 15-foot. Put the camera on top of that, so the camera is really elevated. We should be able to angle it down to the point where any sun glare should not be a problem with that. So we can at least eliminate that aspect of or potential problem, the intermittent issue with the signal. So that's all that I have, and Stephanie is here to discuss this possible Store Road realignment. I'll turn it over to Stephanie.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Mike, if you could bring up the plan that I sent over to you yesterday, that would be great. So we were asked to preliminarily look at the potential for a Store Road realignment opposite Freed Road. This is somewhat related to the HT4 study that PennDOT's team with McCormick Taylor is undertaking to address obviously the operations within this general area of the township. But one of those would be the intersection of Freed and potentially looking at, again, if it warrants a traffic signal. Before we get into what I have on the page, I have reached out to McCormick Taylor requesting their volumes, their recent volumes that they collected, and their study, which I do not have yet, in order to get a better understanding if ultimately the more recent information will lean towards warranting a traffic signal at this intersection. And also to be able to look at if Store Road were to be realigned, what effect that would have on the potential warranting of a traffic signal. So I don't have that information yet, but once we get it, I hope I get it. We'll take a look at that as well. But so for the alignment options, we know we want to preserve as much of that area as possible, but I want to show a few things. So the green option, the S curve, essentially looks at if we were to do a true realignment of Store Road, keep them free flowing up to the intersection of Freed. Those would be the minimum radii that would be needed. And what you're going to see is in order to not basically cut the property in half and maintain the existing field usage, it does require shifting it down, and it would affect at the southern, well, I'll say southern, but I guess it's really the western side of the golf course property. So you'll notice there's a 52-foot dimension kind of up a little ways, Mike. That's just to the corner of the existing field. So we wanted to maintain a separation there. You could basically take that green line and, slide it up or slide it down, to get the same effect. And you would see, what impact it would have. If we slid it all the way up to avoid the golf course property, we're going to be up, cutting at least probably a third of the field, maybe half of the field off. So we know that that's not a desirable option. And we just wanted to give that as a perspective. The blue option, we looked at maintaining the intersection where it is today, where the drive aisle and the parking lot in that back corner. So that would essentially be the free flow movement for Store Road, right? Coming down Store and making the left onto the blue, or coming out the blue and making the right onto Store. And then maintaining essentially the drive aisle with some adjustments to the parking would be needed, but that gives a more of a movement up to the Freed Road intersection. The existing leg of Store Road would just simply be teed in, essentially. Actually, no, that would be the green option. Sorry, the blue option, this existing leg of Store Road would just be a stop condition, and so they would still have access to come out and around and get to a potential signal. The red option is one we discussed just to simplify, and maintain as much of the property as possible. The challenge with that is to keep it kind of aligned with the driveway for the church parking, as well as maximize any kind of a storage length approaching the signal. We are going to be cutting right through any of the existing stormwater management facilities. The topo is significantly lower in that area, so we would be filling in or needing some type of, I don't want to say a structure necessarily, but it would have an impact on the stormwater management facility and potentially a floodplain area. It's confusing, the information we got from, I believe it was Van Cleef for the base, and we looked at some previous plans that were done when the church was expanded. There's some question as to whether or not that area that's dotted is actually related to floodplain or not. But either way, there are some other challenges with going straight across, and that does introduce obviously the turning movements, left and right, right and left. And until we look at the traffic data, I would like to see what that, the queuing and whatnot would be in that location. So there's some other challenges, I'll say, with the red option. We did meet yesterday with staff and talked about, I think I don't know, Chief and Doug, you kind of mentioned the blue option as potentially your preferred, based on what information we have now. But really, we just wanted to kind of share the three alignments, what we looked at. Nothing is set in stone. Obviously, this is done on an aerial with, um, you know, nothing concrete, but this is where we're headed, or this is what we would be looking at for potential scenarios. And I would add that nothing would change at the intersection of Store Road and Mainland Road. There would be no reason to change that in any fashion. It's essentially the right in, right out movement today. There would be no reason why that couldn't stay.
Beth,
Yes.
is there an opportunity to, I guess, consider with the fourth option? That would be, what you have in red, slid south, I guess, to the blue. And then perhaps running that all the way across to, Upper Mainland Road to one, alleviate the congestion that occurs and the problem that occur at Upper Mainland Main, which would give them also benefit to the city.
Yeah, we talked about that.
So you
Mhm.
think that's-
We even talked about abandoning Bunton.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Vacating Bunton
because of
Road.
the
Right.
car crossings.
That's,
But
what are your
that,
thoughts?
We talked about that briefly, and even if we were if that were to come at some point, we could just tee into the blue.
But you could just make you could just make it a T intersection at this point, off of red, and it's the least disturbance, people are doing it every day.
Yes, they are.
Stephanie, let me ask you this question, from a traffic volume standpoint, once you introduce the blue/red option we just talked about, and the signal of this intersection, would you presume also a large volume of the traffic that's currently going out Store to Mainland Road to zigzag out to Womble would all just continue up the bypass and use this signal? So we would really be cutting off, I mean, it's fine, but it would push almost all the traffic that's currently coming out Store to go out to get to points west and north out to Store to the intersection with 3, correct?
I would think we would see a pretty good amount of traffic that would choose to go towards the signal instead. Yes.
It would prevent people that are racing through the village and then the movements that way, okay. But it would also probably increase the amount of the volume of traffic on the bypass, then getting up by the turnpike interchange. So only people that go to the village, because people trying to go points east on Summingtown Pike. Okay.
Again, that's one reason why I would like to see the volumes that they counted. I believe it was last year that they counted them. They counted a number of these intersections, because I also think, we could be looking at moving some of that Upper Mainland traffic also, right? If they have an option to come out at the signal, that is also something that.
What would you do with the traffic coming from the parking lots at the church? If we were to convert their existing drive, use the blue option, and that becomes a township roadway, there are 5 entrances from the parking lot.
Yeah, so we shaded off in the black there. We were showing those, that little parking to be closed and then give them an access, like they would maintain the existing driveway further up and then give them an access into the parking lot. We just picked that spot for now, but I think it would be helpful to have that secondary access, you know, in the times where the parking lot is being used.
And that was a concern they had, that they didn't wanna all of a sudden lose access when they had met with us and become a, because obviously when they're using it, their peak time is probably the lowest volume that's gonna be on this roadway. They didn't really wanna create a
Right.
traffic flow problem for themselves coming out.
Right. You know, so that would be, you know, obviously a detail we could certainly discuss, but we show at least one access there to give them the two out onto the road. You know, but you know, that's something that could certainly be
You could even do like
reevaluated.
temporary gates that they could open on a Sunday, but that aren't open through the rest of the week because it's just not open.
Mhm.
The function of the road.
Another detail on the sports field that's there right now, we're trying to maintain that, what's the parking situation gonna be? Because that'll be segregated off from the other parking area.
Yeah, I mean, those would be other items we would need to look further into. You know, at this point, we were really just kind of getting the high level potential alignments that would give the best use of the property. I purposely didn't go into looking at all of those details yet, but I mean, there's certainly opportunity to figure out how we would address that.
The purpose of this exhibit is for us to be able to go back to the church for the discussions that we're having. What I would suggest we do is we take that red line, move it down to the property where Keith suggested, show a T intersection for the blues, we keep it simple, and do a dashed line all the way out to Upper Mainland Road for discussion.
So they know it's,
So they know it's a possibility, and then obviously off of that, we can look at how we would interconnect parking lots.
That's what I was gonna say, we get parking down there, that's it.
Yeah.
That makes more sense, I mean, the first red, it's hard enough to get sidewalks across that, I don't wanna put a road there.
No, that's not.
Obviously, we wanna, yeah, I mean, that makes the most sense to me, we could do that, they're favorable to that, it's. Safe
Sounds
for those
fine,
land,
right?
yeah.
we need something from them, they need something from us.
Yeah, and this is, and again, this is high level just to show them the general design concept we have to get us with an exhibit to get over the hurdle. Others of these discussions can work out as we go further.
I
So
think
you were in that discussion, you agree with that? Yeah.
I think for me personally, I don't see reason to entertain, you know, blues would have to, but red, yeah.
Do we go to the intersection of Mainland and?
Can I ask a question real quick, Keith? With the red moving down, I'm still gonna show the closing off of the drive aisles for the parking lot and make that the main road, like the blue. If we slide the red down, right, we'll still have essentially, you know, a secondary access for them. I just want to make sure I understand.
Well, as you see at the coming out of the parking lot to the bottom of the plan right there, if we were actually just to do a driveway over to the intersection we're gonna create, go to the right of your.
Yeah.
corner, could
Yep.
be- That could give them two release points in different directions for their parking.
Yep. Agreed.
That would be our planning answer to them of how do we not have a traffic jam on Sunday afternoons.
Perfect. Okay, we can show that.
What can, yeah, too, you could, you know, double that, so there's the red, go to the park there.
And so for this, I'm gonna remove the green entirely, slide the red down, show the dash line out to Upper Mainland.
Yep.
And make some tweaks there. Yep, we can do that.
One sketch plan is best.
Okay.
The other piece of this, I think, to keep in mind is when we do put that signal in, we'd like the equipment put back such that if there's 4 lanes for the bypass, it accommodates that new lane installation into the.
Mhm.
You with me, by the way,
I'm with you.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think,
Because I'd like to get, consideration for ultimately widening that to the 4 or 5 lanes.
To right size it.
The right side, we're on the right side. So let me, here's what I'm the tortoises.
And if we can address the road rage that was created by PennDOT,
This one.
this just within the last week, we had a 3-vehicle road rage. That went from the merger to the first crash at Wawa and the second crash at Clemens.
Oh my goodness.
Where the same guy was like sideswiping the cars that cut him off because he was in the merging lane and thought since he was behind there, then he obviously had the right of way. And then it become tailgating. I believe there was some inappropriate language
Hand gestures.
and then 2 crashes. And now criminal charges.
Yeah, I'm just, wondering how much during rush hour, if this would relieve the speeding or the traffic through the village. Because people are still trying to do that traffic on the bypass, like going through the village, coming out, like.
Well, I think there's a certain amount of that,
And certain amount of that, because I don't see them coming around this way, waiting for traffic.
We don't see as, since the double left, which I was hoping.
Yeah.
And again, not in our township, so none of my business.
Right.
It's been pointed out.
Repeat it.
But since they put, I was hoping that was a temporary fix until H4, is finished, but. We don't see as much coming out mainly, which they tried to hold us back.
Yeah.
And fortunately, Dimension is opposing that. Because initially they promised us east and west access. And this is the first one we lost. And this would finally get us back to their initial draft. And then the eastbound, they tried to cut off.
Right.
We're not seeing as many people pulling out perpendicular
Okay.
to block the traffic.
Okay.
But you have to keep the trucks haven't come yet.
Right. They have not yet.
You put one tractor trailer in the double left turn lane. You're still backing up. I mean, it still backs up. I see it about 6 o'clock every morning and it's not too bad, but as you get into the peak, they're still backed up to Wambold.
It's still quicker to go around and go to the main intersection and get on the turnpike.
And the truck haven't come yet.
Yeah, right.
So it's.
One thing I'd like to also consider with this, again, I like what we discussed, I like where we're going, but the thing that I was favorable with the blue, not that I want to see the blue, was I did think about deterrence on the speed. You have a straight line, since we are right next to a church, maybe anything we could put in as we're talking about all this signage, strips, anything that could alert people to kind of deter speed and consider that as we put that down too. So that will do straight about it. It's right next to a church, as we said, a little traffic on Sunday.
We'd have right angle intersections, so that should slow people.
and the other thing would be maybe a mid-block crosswalk, so that if people are parking at the church to go use the park, there's a defined, entry point.
And that's good, that helps, yeah, you see, and that's the other thing I was actually gonna say, completely separate, not to go on a tangent, but. Where we have those at crosswalks, that's something as we talk about bikes and stuff like that, see more of them, scooters out there, which I keep seeing a lot more people on them. I do see people slow down significantly more on those crosswalks.
Well, it's a house of worship, so you would expect more crosswalks.
Steph, you got your marching order, buddy?
I do, and I'm gonna reach back out to McCormick Taylor again this week and ask for that information. They have not released their study of all of the intersections that they were tasked to do. And I think that that information is going to be useful for us in this overall evaluation, because we're not just looking at Freed and Store, a potential Store Road intersection. We have to look at what's happening beyond that as well. So. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
That's Steph. All right, anything else for Mr. Jones?
One question though, I know the public works did a great job filling in those little gaps on the trails. I know, I was talking about scooters, now that the middle school's back in, the sidewalk that goes along Yoder and their fields, do we maintain that, or is that the school's property?
Pretty sure it's the schools.
Is there a way, and I don't know if we've had discussion with them or whatnot, but I know, I was just casual conversation with my son there, and he was saying, oh, yeah, a couple of people tripped on this, and I've seen it myself, I go in the grass, and what it is, if you have those grass patches on the trail, which is really just a break in the trail, so if you hit that with a bike, or you hit it with a scooter, even your foot, kind of bump, we fixed up, and they look great, I see them all across the trails, but I know this is still there, so I don't know if we can reach out to them, let them know or something like that.
I'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Who's chief?
Just 2 brief updates from previous discussions, the firehouse, open house. There will probably be one more meeting to wrap up with the draft that we showed you last time for full closure of small sections of Colton, School. Looks like it's, gonna work. And just the, update on our e-bike.
So I met with the last of our officers yesterday, reviewed the e-bike status, and with regards to trying to do more enforcement, more for an educational purpose than it was for, you know, issuing summons or fines. We've had a couple contacts with people already. So at this point, we're just going to continue moving forward with trying to enforce what we can. Still keeping an eye on the ordinance to see if there's anything that we need to amend to more encompass that specific type of vehicle. But if I get more updates.
Yeah, we are seeing more and more. I mean, like that grid that we put out on social media, there's at least another 10 municipalities that are putting out the same. So it's everywhere. And just defining what's permitted on the highway, even e-bikes technically shouldn't be on the road. So at all. So it's going to be mostly educational.
I like the educational approach. I appreciate that. I hopefully get a lot of exposure at the market. Because it's even just through the summer that I've seen gradually. Now as we get winter, Christmas sales, holiday sales stuff, it's nothing cheaper, more affordable, and they're out. It's what's happening. So we try to have a leg up on.
Anything else? All right, very good. Mr. Dickey, building is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have 34 permits that were issued so far September. Recall last month we only had 37, so it's looking to be about double last month. We've been pretty busy from a land development perspective. So as you know, Chase Bank at the corner of Quarry Road and Main Street is under construction, and they're flying through that one. Also, the new retail building is part of the same land development that's being constructed right now. And we just issued last week, Popeyes, Louisiana Kitchen, and Burger King are also set to begin very soon. And an industrial building at 130 Christopher Lane. One of the last remaining lots there on Christopher Lane cul-de-sac is given the go-ahead to start construction soon. We have no zoning hearing board for October, not to any surprise. The upcoming planning commission meeting, we're going to be talking about the Kearney subdivision, which is 862 Harleysville Pike. That's a simple 2-lot subdivision, residential subdivision. So we're going to talk about that. Also, we're going to talk about Clemens Mill, which is 531 Main Street, residential land development.
That's still around.
It is still around. Yeah, they're continuing to resubmit and look into provisions for that. That's the 14 dwelling unit land development. A bunch of twins, basically, is what that is.
Yeah, that's 20-some years that's been around. And it's never, it still has not received approval, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So they're working on it.
I know the.
Also, as you know, the administrative office text amendments are being looked at right now by the Montgomery County Planning Commission, and they're going to be back in front of our planning commission later on this month. And then they have been advertised already once for the hearing in October for the consideration to adopt those amendments. And we also have a few other ordinance amendments that we're working on, but no details yet. So I'll give you an update later on about that.
Chair, what's the status of the subdivision plan for here? I'm just thinking scheduling out a zoning hearing board getting a submission for minor subdivision. Do you have a target date for any of that yet?
We don't have a date, but I know that Michelle is finishing it out.
Okay.
She sent it out for discussion, and I think she's working on the final plan.
Because obviously at this point, late the zoning hearing board in October, correct?
So
Or would we be able to?
what we normally like to do for zoning hearing board applications is put it in front of the planning commission, let the planning commission know about it, and then putting it in front of the board to let the board know about it. That can all be fast tracked, because that's not a requirement in the zoning hearing board process. We have, I believe, 60 days to hold a hearing after application, not after the first meeting or anything, it's after the application, so it's pretty fast tracked. So that being said, the zoning hearing board on second Thursday in October is October 9th.
It's too close.
It's way too close, yeah.
I think we should target November for that, and then that would allow it to follow the normal process. And just, but it's minor subdivision, it's pretty straightforward. And I would say just if we could work towards those dates that with Stephanie, so that. You know, because we'll be marketing that as we're looking at these other things. Right, revenue, we revenue.
It's the optimist. All right, anything else for Mr. Buki? Hearing nothing, Joe, Mr. McDowell.
Nothing on the advantage sport other than we need a brief executive session for matter.
To do budget preparation is going
Budget
on.
preparation is underway. We'll have first draft after next or Sunday.
Any surprises that we should be highlighting to ahead of time?
No, no anticipated.
Can you say that a little louder?
No anticipated.
My beauty here. People in the back. All right, with that, we'll take a motion to adjourn to executive session for a matter of real estate without the intention to return.
So moved.
Second, moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Steph.
Steph.
Thanks.
See you, Mr. Carlson.